Senator Markey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for your service, sir. Obviously, the outage of the NOTAM system just shows how fragile our aviation system has become. And we heard in testimony last week that Southwest Airlines suffered its own operational meltdown due to inadequate amounts of winter equipment, which was exacerbated by its own limited technological system. Southwest told us that they didn't have enough de-icing equipment in Chicago or in Denver, which is like saying you don't have enough baseballs to open the season at Fenway Park. So obviously they didn't anticipate what was unfolding, and a lot of it is as a result of climate change. It's a result of global warming. Burlington, Vermont, for example, in a report out just this past month, but it's a good example of what's happening across the country, is 7 degrees warmer in the winter than it was just 50 years ago. Burlington, Vermont, 7 degrees warmer. So it's not just global warming, it's global weirding that's taking place. And therefore, you have to adjust, adapt the system to the craziness of the weather. And the aviation system has to make the investment in order to deal with this dramatically changing weather environment due to global warming, due to climate change. So there is a dangerous connection between climate change and outdated technology and infrastructure, with extreme weather events like Winter Storm Elliott stressing the IT systems at the core of our aviation system. So, Administrator Nolen, do you agree that climate change poses new challenges for airlines, airports, and the FAA?
Senator Markey, thank you for the question. Just given my long time airline experience, I can say, number one, I've operated in all kind of conditions. The airlines, when we think about how they operate, they all have what they call winter operation plan. I'm not an expert on climate. I certainly believe there are things we must do to continue as we think about what
Do you think you have to become an expert on climate? Do you think the aviation system has to become expert on climate? What do you think?
I think absolutely. The more we know, the better.
So that's what I would like to hear. I would like to hear that there's an understanding, appreciation, that if you're not an expert, other people have to be experts.
We do have that level of expertise within the agency itself.
And I think it's very important, because we're going to obviously have to harden our aviation systems against extreme storms, heat, and other weather events. Do you think that the FAA needs to require a greater investment in resiliency at airports?
That's certainly the path we're on, and so and that's a wonderful way of describing it, right? It is how resilient are our systems, and the extent to which we build that in, bake that in. Certainly, the industry globally is investing in technology to be more resilient, and it is an absolute priority for us.
Yeah, and I'm working on legislation to improve the resiliency of our aviation system, particularly at our airports. We worked hard to include $25 billion for our airports in the bipartisan infrastructure law. But these critical investments will be wasted if we don't address the climate-related risks. And we're just going to have to work together in order to make sure that they're not in denial about what is happening. And just one final point, which is related to airport resiliency, which is airport service workers. These individuals are the unsung heroes of our aviation system, but they often are overworked and underpaid. And just as our aviation system literally came to a stop due to NOTAM outage, our airports would similarly stop functioning if the airport workers, the wheelchair attendants, the concessions workers, ramp agents, baggage handlers did not do their jobs. So I just think it's absolutely essentially that we recognize, and you do agree, they're essential to keeping these airports functioning.
I do indeed.
Yeah, and I think it's important for us, which is why I introduced the Good Jobs for Good Airports Act, which would ensure that airport workers are paid a living wage and benefits. They're underappreciated, underpaid, undersupported. They're black, brown, immigrant, disproportionately. And during the pandemic, they showed up. They couldn't Zoom to work. And we just have to make sure they get the resources which they need. So thank you, sir, for the
Thank you,
job
sir.
you do. Thank you.